Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this June 25th, 2015 day on our calendar. Yes, I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com, where you can catch all my shows from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Pacific time, and also go to my website, long-running website of the last 10 years or so at Arctic, ARCTICBEACON.com. Now, today I wanted to continue with Rob Skiba and his 2-hour presentation of the scriptural basis of what our Earth is shaped like, whether it is a sphere, whether it is a circle, whether it is flat, etc., etc. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But one thing I wanted to point out today is I was reading an article by, what's this gentleman's name? His name is Mike Adams. Mike Adams. And he likes to keep track of Congress. I try to forget about it. But anyway, today I thought we'd just mention this real shortly before we get into a deeper discussion of what I think is really important. I really wanted to know what I'm walking on here. You know, I don't want to go to my grave thinking this is a ball Earth, if it isn't. You call me strange, but I really want to find out. And you know, it's that kind of hope, it's that kind of optimism that keeps a man alive. I mean, if I'm just going to lay down and believe everything they tell me, what sense should I even be here? I might as well just be a robot. But how many Americans are? I mean, you don't have to watch those robot movies and, see how they're making all the, iRobot, all these things that they're making in Hollywood of artificial human beings. There's a show coming up on AMC called Humans, and they create these people that look like humans but aren't. But, that's already done. People are already robots. Yes. Well, let's see what Mr. Adams says, because this free trade agreement that Obama's going to approve has been fast-tracked, and I'm just paraphrasing here, through the U.S. Congress. And while America's being distracted with all those things going on, the Confederate flag distraction, all the other things, the false flag events they do, Congress is quickly selling us down the river, as they always do. But this one is huge. I mean, I'm used to them selling us down the river. But this puts the icing on the cake. You might as well just say goodbye, America, because this trade agreement, according to Mr. I'm going to read a little bit of his article to make my life easy. The TPP, as you may have heard, it's not toilet paper. It should be toilet paper. That's about all it's worth when it comes to our freedoms. But this trade agreement outright surrenders U.S. sovereignty to multinational corporations, handing them global monopolies over labor practices, immigration, big pharma, drug pricing, GMO food labeling, criminalization of garden seeds, and much more. Yeah, they want to criminalize garden seeds. They're not going to allow you to do anything. Hell, they're going to start telling you when to go to the bathroom, when to take a shower, when to sneeze. In all, this trade agreement will put over control of 80% of our economy into the hands of these corporations, as if they don't control enough as it is. How much do they want? These global monopolists, are set to enable those corporations to engage in virtually unlimited toxic chemical pollution, medical monopolization, the gutting of labor safety laws, and much, much more. Of course, think about it, folks. This is going to displace millions of more American workers as corporations outsource jobs to foreign workers at a cheaper rate. And your Congress says they're looking out for your best interests? This is a global world. They don't care about you. They're in their own little club. I'm telling you a long time ago, we're not in it. And what are we going to do? We're just going to follow right along, and somehow we'll rationalize that they're doing the best they can. They're doing the worst they can. And they're going to do worse, and worse, and worse, and worse, and worse. While corporations rake in profits from these new powers, everyday American workers will lose their livelihoods and their jobs even more than they had now, not to mention their pensions. Forget about it. Essentially, America just got sold out. Now, you got this guy Marco Rubio on the Republican side. What is this young brat running for Congress, a fast talker? He's selling you out just like the rest of them. First, America was distracted by these hysteria, outrage over this Confederate flag garbage going on in South Carolina. Hilariously, this literal false flag controversy doesn't even involve the actual Confederate flag. It involves a battle flag that people mistakenly think is the Confederate flag. But why should we even talk about historical accuracy, says Mr. Adams. Oh, so while, all these companies like Walmart were deleting Confederate flags from the stands, and there was a big nonsense over this 1970 comedy, The Dukes of Hazzard, it's going to get to the point you can't say anything anymore. Republicans and the president, and they're all the same. We're busy committing outright treason at the highest level, surrendering our sovereignty and our economically enslaving all of us even farther than we are today. Now, why, I told you to get involved with these people is complete, utter ridiculousness at this point. And that's the tragedy of this, says Mr. Adams. And let me quote him for a change here. While the political left falsely believed it was denouncing slavery by pressuring every online retailer and government entity and to ban the Confederate flag, the U.S. Congress was busy enacting a whole new label of total slavery for all of us, regardless of their skin. Now, Mr. Adams, that's a good point, but I'm going to tell you, since the 14th Amendment, now I'm going to just boast a little bit. I studied this in law school 15 years ago. And did you know that was kind of a minority view amongst law students when you talk about the real reasons for the 14th Amendment? I was the only one that gave the argument that the 14th Amendment enslaved all of us. Because in law school, you don't learn history. You learn what they want you to learn in law. And then you get out and you make a lot of money for the beast. In other words, they played right into the hands of the real slave masters, says Mr. Adams. Yeah, look, what's going on here? While ignorant activists run around in hysteria thinking they're banishing something, so that they're really doing something good here. They've just passed this trade agreement. It's going to take away everything from you anyway. In other words, and this black-white thing, it's enough of it. We're all the same here. I'm so tired of this racist card that these politicians, these black politicians and these white politicians use to distract us. Most of us know black and white doesn't make a bit of difference. And we're all under the gun here. Now, in other words, they played right into the hands of these slave masters. The globalist monopolist corporations and their fascist government puppets who betray us. They betrayed us years ago. Listen, we were betrayed even before this country got started. When you start looking at the Confederate, what really happened in the Revolutionary War. And despite all the flack I get from people, even like Eric Phelps, who say I'm crazy to think that George Washington and these guys were in the pocket of the Jesuits, I don't care how much he thinks he knows. He's wrong on this one. And he's wrong for a reason, because he hasn't done his homework or he's got an agenda. Simple as that. And I'm just getting tired of placating these, Look, just tell it the way it is. Everyone, for a change. I don't care who you are. It's enough of this nonsense. But we're not in the club. Oh, no, we're not in the club at all. In America, something is now officially a slave nation beholden to these corporate interests. We were before, but now we're officially it. And something? Most people are going to like it. They'll have some good reason for it. Well, that's enough on that. And I am so tired of these kind of discussions because they go nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. But I had to do it because I wanted you to really know, because when the Pope comes here and talks about this trade agreement, he's going to be pushing for it too. And you wait. because he wants global control, and he wants all the money to float through the Vatican Bank so they can money launder it again. How many billions of dollars have they money laundered now to create war and havoc and fund ISIS right over there in the Middle East? You don't think they did it? And our government hasn't funded that? Then think again. And you know the ultimate deception. Let's get to that. The ultimate deception of all of this stuff is that when you believe anything they say, going right down their space program at NASA, the whole ball of wax. When you start believing that stuff, then you're starting to believe the beast. Now, I'm playing this tape here by Rob Skiba, who wrote Babylon Rising, for a reason. The reason is I want you to get a biblical look at what you're walking on. And if they can lie to you about all of the money they've taken from us, billions and billions of dollars, have come out of our since the 60s in this stupid space program, all it is computer animation, then we are nothing but, you know something, we've been built so, we like it. The more you get screwed, the more you want to get screwed over by these people. That's what it seems to me. So people say, well, Greg, you're crazy to talk about the earth is flat, so I'm not going to say flat, I'm going to say circle, which doesn't mean a sphere. And it's stationary, so there we have some agreement. At least the Bible agrees with me on that one. And Rob is looking at it too, and he's saying, listen, I hold the Word of God as the final word. He's basically telling us that, so I thought I'd go to him and let him talk about the Scriptures and what he found out, because he's done a lot more research than me on this subject and how it relates to the Bible. So you people out there who've also done the research on the Bible, listen to what he has to say, comment on it, and if you don't think it's important, then go on letting them take you to the cleaners for every little thing. Because if they can take you to the cleaners on this one, on exactly what the earth is all about, they'll do, that's it. That's why it's important to get there, because they are telling you Genesis is nothing. They are telling you you are nothing but something that's coming out of a monkey. They're telling you that we're just this ball floating around at 65,000 miles an hour in a universe floating around at 150 million miles an hour, and there's all these little asteroids, and one little, we're just a little speck. That's not what the Bible says. It says we're the most important. This earth is the center of things. Why do you think they have us going around the sun? Because they're sun worshipers. And that's the big point. And I get people, well, that's not important. Well, listen to Rob. Let's see what he has to say about this. And let's move on. We're about 31 minutes into this 2-hour and 51-minute segment, but it's well worth it. And you can go back and get all my shows, of course, for free. And then again, tell me what you think about what he has to say.
It says, is seeing things that I'm not supposed to be able to see, according to the math, and seeing it, I'm going, well, every test I've done so far leans heavily in favor of the flat Earth, the enclosed flat Earth. I will say this, I'm becoming more and more convinced, whether it's flat or globe, that it's geocentric and stationary. The stuff that I've been reading lately is really, I'm going to say 90-95% convinced me that whatever shape the Earth is in, it's not moving. It's stationary, and everything else moving around it. And when you get into scriptures about the sun, moon, and stars, it talks all about them moving. There's like 67 references to the sun, moon, and stars moving, 0 for the Earth moving. And the whole idea that the Earth is rotating around the sun, well, the sun doesn't show up until day 4. The Earth is already doing plenty of stuff in the previous days before we get to day 4. So what, was it just kind of randomly running around, orbiting nothing until the sun showed up and it synced up with the sun? The biblical text just doesn't work for the standard model. It doesn't. And then when you look at other scriptures like where Joshua commands the sun to stand still, I've said this myself in my own presentations. I've said, and I always say it this way, I said, if my understanding of the cosmos is correct, then for the sun to stand still, that means the Earth stopped rotating. Right. Well, when you look at, standard model says our Earth is rotating 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, 67,000 miles per hour around the sun in its orbit, and however many thousands of miles throughout the galaxy or solar system is supposed to be moving too. There are all these people who have produced videos and stuff showing what would happen, and I'm talking secular, like Neil deGrasse Tyson type people, talking about what would happen if the Earth stopped rotating. I mean, it's chaos on a mass scale like you couldn't believe. I mean, we lose gravity, we lose the magnetic field, we have 1,000-mile-an-hour wind shear because the atmosphere is still going. I mean, there's an entire documentary done on the day the Earth stood still, and it's not a sci-fi deal. This is what would happen progressively if the Earth slowly started to slow down to a stop, and it's bad news, man. And then you have another story where the sundial in the scriptures is said to have gone back 10 degrees. So now you have the Earth not just stopping, but going backwards, and then restarting and ramping back up to 1,000 miles an hour. I mean, these are very problematic scriptures if we stick with the standard model. And so I'm praying, I'm like, Lord, look, I don't want to be led astray. And I definitely don't want to lead anybody else astray. So please give me, I mean, I was just praying this morning, like, Lord, please give me the answer. And I'm convinced that he's going to. But he's only going to if we continue to search. You know, it is the glory of God to hide a thing and the glory of kings to search it out. I'm not saying I'm a king, but I am saying that, you know, he hides stuff not from us, but for us. And that, you know, there's tremendous blessing on going on the quest for truth and investigating before condemning. And let me put up the screen share I was going to put up there and show you some things. Here's Job, okay, long before Isaiah. He's writing in Job 37:18, "Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass?" Okay, now that's King James. You start looking at other English translations, mirror cast from bronze, you know, beaten down bronze, middle, molten, you know, all these descriptions of something that's very hard, you know, of molten brass, right? That's, okay, I mean, that's what separated the water above from the water below. And inside of that is where everything else shows up. We see in Ezekiel 1:26 that above the firmament, that's where the throne is, right? Isaiah 66:1, "The heaven is my throne, and the earth my footstool." Well, that's a strange footstool if it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour and leaving, going from underneath you at 67,000 miles an hour. I mean, what is this, a Disney World ride or what? I mean, you can say, well, you're being too literal, Rob, and I'm going to say, yeah, I am. Because I believe the Bible was divinely inspired by the Holy Spirit, who is the creator, right? You know, I mean, when we're talking about the Godhead, we're talking about God created the world. So if he's the one inspiring Scripture, then I'm going to take him for what he says when he describes how he did it. And when you finally get to Isaiah 40:22, if you take off the spinning globe glasses, even without getting into the Hebrew, it doesn't make sense for a spinning globe. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and this is where it gets, okay, the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens as a curtain and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. Now, make a spinning globe in a solar system in a galaxy fit that. It doesn't work. Right. I mean, you don't set a tent over. How does that work? You know, in the Septuagint version of that same scripture, it is he that comprehends the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants in it are as grasshoppers. He that set up the heaven as a chamber, and stretched it out as a tent to dwell in. I'm sorry, I'm not getting the standard model out of any of that. This is what the ancient world believed, and it had windows up there that were opened for the flood, and as a result, I believe that the waters above are no longer there, in my opinion. I think if this model is true, then when the windows opened up, this emptied out. That's what flooded the earth. And so there's all kinds of scriptures about the pillars of the earth, the foundation of the earth, the cornerstone of the earth. I mean, lots of scriptures on that kind of stuff right there. The sun, moon, and stars are placed in this deal, which means they're moving, we're not, if this model is true. This is another graphic somebody else did that shows a bunch of scriptures to substantiate the various things depicted here. And I thought this was really interesting because this is put out by Logos Bible Software. Copyright 2012 Logos Bible Software. This is what Logos says the Hebrew Scriptures, this is the way the Hebrew Scriptures define the earth. Okay, Logos Bible Software is telling you that. So, okay. But then when you start looking at other ancient cultures, I mean, you got like Nut, the sky god Nut. is always depicted as this female deity that is the canopy over the inhabitants below, and all the stars are in her body. It kind of makes you wonder if that's why people say you're nuts if you believe this, because I mean that's what they believed, you know, and that idea keeps coming up over and over and over again in ancient cultures. So I don't know, man. You know, looking at the Hebrew word chug, it's circle, to draw around, make a circle, inscribe a circle, to draw around, make a circle. Brown Drivers Briggs. There's nothing there about a spinning ball. Whereas you got the spinning ball in Isaiah 22:18. In a Proverbs 8:27, he established the heavens. I was there when he inscribed a circle on the face of the deep. That word inscribed is, I don't know how you say that, kalkak, chakak, check, whatever. Anyway, the Strong's number 2710 defines it as to cut in, inscribe, decree, carve. It's like the commandments were carved in stone. All right? This is something circular carved into something else that we later hear descriptions of having four corners. The four corners of the earth. We hear that all the time, four corners of the earth. And your typical globalist, now that word itself has taken on new meaning for me, the globalist. Yeah. But your Christian apologetic globalist will try to dance circles around all this stuff, you know, and say it doesn't mean what it's actually saying. When it's saying four corners, they'll say, well, that's talking about the four cardinal points on the compass. Excuse me. Yes, there is a north and south pole that would potentially be a corner in that example, but east and west don't have corners.
Right.
You keep going east, always. You keep going west, always. You never reach a definitive point you could call a corner. Or, you know, it's quadrants or whatever. It's not what the text says. The text says what it says. Stop trying to do mental gymnastics to make it say something it doesn't say. The Bible's telling you over and over and over again that something was inscribed, circular, into something that's apparently square with four corners. So you end up with basically something that looks like this. Now, this was a depiction somebody did back in the 1800s. I'm not sure I buy this either. This is sort of like a roulette wheel. It's got a bulge in the middle and it curves up on the sides. I don't, even on the flat earther side of things, I don't really see this working too well, in at least in any of the tests that I tried to work out. But you get the idea. There's something square that has a circle carved in it and a dome placed over it called the firmament. So, you know, when I look at all the scriptures and I say which one looks more like what I would get if I wasn't indoctrinated to believe with preconceived ideas and biases in a ball, would I get this out of the scriptures or this? I got to tell you, man, this is what I'm getting out of the scriptures.
And what he means by this, because you can't see what he's pointing at, is he's getting the circle earth instead of this globe. That, you know, even the globe pictures they give us from NASA are so, when you start looking, the clouds are the same pattern for 40 years. Clouds don't change. Interesting. But anyway, what really is going on here is I can't believe how we buy it hook, line, and sinker even after facts come out to show us that perhaps NASA's wasting that money. Billions of dollars. Billions of billions and billions and billions of billions wasted on control. That's all they want. And we'll be back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy. In order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the left-behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we're back on the Investigative Journal for our second half hour on this June 25th, 2015 day on our calendar. And isn't it an interesting point that I just made at the end of this first segment? And that is, if we can be buffaloed on this one, then everything else, boys, just a cakewalk. And that's really the truth. Let's get back to Rob Skiba exposing what I call the circle Earth theory.
Not this. And incidentally, this is the logo of the UN flag. I mean, if you go to the UN, look at their logo, that's their logo.
Oh, wait. Yes, the logo of the UN, of course, I said this millions of times, is the flat Earth. And if you look at all the quadrants, it's broken down into 33 quadrants.
And it's showing up in weird places, man. I went to do a conference in San Diego a few weeks ago, and the USS Midway was in dock and turned into a museum. And so I'm thinking about flat Earth, but it wasn't, like on my mind when I just wanted to go to the tour of the museum. So it's like a 4-hour tour, and I just get on the ship. I haven't got very far into the ship when I look over and I see a plaque dedicated to the USS Midway, and it's got the flat Earther map on it.
Okay, Rob, I got to break in because I used to have my commercial fishing boat over there right across from the Midway. Used to walk through that park all the time, been through there. I know exactly what he's talking about. The flat Earth insignia, when you walk in there and you do that museum, I had to do that museum tour. But anyway, I know exactly where he's at. So let's get back to Rob.
And I'm like, oh, brother, that's interesting. So then I'm going through with the tour guide, and this guy right here tells us that, I'll just go ahead and play it. It's a really quick clip here.
You got a couple GPSs back on the bench here. The back one is 80s technology. The front one is 90s technology. GPS was developed by the Navy for submarine service and went on for there. Now we got everywhere. And I didn't know this till the other day, that we have, the United States, we control all the GPS satellites. They're all ours. And we let the rest of the world, everybody gets to use them for free. Because we're such nice guys. That ain't right.
So he's got no dog in the hunt. He doesn't know what I'm thinking about. He doesn't know anything. But, people are, what about satellites? What about GPS? Then I'm like, okay, if there is, and I'm saying if, there is a grand conspiracy, then we're the ones, everybody who signed the Antarctic Treaty, I would say, would be involved in it. At the governmental level, if there is, in fact, a conspiracy. But we are really controlling the shots because we control space. And so I just found that interesting. So I'm flying on the plane. Now, this is what really cracks me up about all the dissenters out there is, they're all real quick to mock and ridicule and condemn without investigations. And the first thing they say, well, if you've ever been in a plane, you've seen the curve of the earth. I'm like, hello. First of all, I was a helicopter pilot for 6 of the 8 years I was in the Army. I was a missionary for 6.5 years, traveled to over a dozen countries. I've been in the air a lot. And still am with all the stuff that I'm doing. Now, 2 months ago, I would have said the same thing. I've seen the curve of the earth from the airplane. Well, that's because you convince yourself that you've seen the curve of the earth from the airplane. As soon as you get up in an airplane and start taking pictures of it, bring it into Photoshop and throw a parallel bars over it, you don't get that. Let's see if I put it in here. Those are the other pictures I took. Yeah. Those are pictures of Mars I took out of my airplane. Why is that picture in here? Oh, here it is. Yeah. 37,000 feet, flat as pancake. So wow. I start posting pictures. Now, if you take a picture with a camera that has a fisheye lens or some kind of wide angle going on, it's going to distort the edges on it. This was taken with my iPhone, and it doesn't have any curvature going on there. The wings are perfectly the way they should be, and the horizon's absolutely flat. I start looking through other photographs and videos that I've taken on my missionary trips because I saw cool stuff. And average commercial flights are roughly 35 to 40,000 feet. In every case, flat as pancake. So then the other people said, after I started refuting that argument, they said, no, there's not enough curvature detected there because you can't really detect it until you get about 50,000 feet. Once you get about 50,000 feet, then the curvature becomes obvious, especially at 60,000 feet. I'm like, wait a minute. All you guys were just yelling at me and claiming that I'm an idiot because if you've ever been in a plane, you've seen it. Now I've proved to you can't see it, and now you're going to tell me it's 50 to 60,000 feet. Well, that's convenient. Because only the military can get up that high. We don't go that high in civilian planes. So unless I get a weather balloon, I'm not likely ever to see that for myself. But then you look at weather balloon footage. Well, yeah, the ones that shot with a fisheye lens, which are demonstrably so, when you see them lift off and the Earth is going from concave to flat to convex to concave to flat to convex, well, clearly, GoPro solved the problem. We're not on a flat Earth or a globe. We're on a morphing Earth because it's all three. It's so obvious that the footage is telling you. In fact, there's a video that was just recently posted right here on space.com. Check this out. Okay. Turn this down. Oh, look. We're on is that concave? Oh. Concave. Here we go. We're not on a ball. We're on the inside of a wheel. Okay, here comes the sun. Flat. It's flat as a pancake. Oh, no, it's a ball. It's a ball. Wow, look at that ball. Look at how small the ball is getting, too, as it continues to go around. That's a small Earth right there.
Right.
Uh-oh, here it goes. Flat down. Oh, it's all flat. Whew, flat Earth. Oh, no, we're on the inside of a wheel. Now, that right here is really interesting, too. I'm going to back this up. Keep your eye on this right here. I'm going to back up and watch how whatever that is reveals itself. Okay, you don't see it, don't see it, don't see it. And it starts to appear right here, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it looks like it's behind a black line of some sort when it comes out. And this thing happens like 3 or 4 times as this thing's spinning around. You guys can check that out. Go to space.com/29590-graceful-ballet-of-SpaceX-jettisoned-junk-video.html. That's a big one there. I'll send you a link. That'd be easier.
I'll put it in the show notes.
So you can't trust anything shot with a fisheye lens because it's not giving you a true representation. And most of the footage, if not all the footage that I've seen coming from NASA or any of their affiliates, is always shot with a fisheye lens. Then I saw some videos that people did. Joe Blow, science experiment or whatever, got the fire department to help them launch a weather balloon. And it goes up to almost the same height as that dude that jumped out of the capsule on the Red Bull thing. Now, the Red Bull thing is crazy, too, because the inside of the capsule when he opens it up and you can see past over his shoulder to the horizon, it's perfectly flat. As soon as they cut to the outside cameras, he's about to jump off onto a very small ball because the curvature is like insane how curved it is. And yet people are like, see, it's curved. I'm like, are you kidding me? Look at the curvature of the ball fall all around. That's a very small Earth that he's about to jump onto. And he's not that high up. He's at 127,000 feet. The civilian one that I saw that did not have a fisheye lens went up to 121,000 feet. And the thing's doing 360s, and all the way around, it's flat. Flat as a pancake. And now everybody else that tried to argue with me about looking out the window of an airplane said it's obvious at 60,000 feet. Yet here's a weather balloon at twice that, and it's flat. So I'm going, the evidence isn't working in favor for you globalists. And, as I've tried to disprove it myself, it's not working. So then people said, well, if you've ever been to the beach, you've seen the curvature of the Earth. Okay, so I go to Malibu Beach, and there's quite a field of view, probably close to 100 miles from left to right. And at 100 miles, the math, I've got the math in here somewhere. I don't know what I did now. It's in here somewhere. There it is. At 100 miles, it should be 6,666 feet of curvature observed.
Hey, Rob, don't worry about this. Don't worry. Math means nothing to these people.
So, this is a panoramic picture. Flat, 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 flat. Now, while I was standing there, the illusion, because I have land on the right and land on the left, because of the way our eye is shaped, when you're looking out, it does give you the illusion that the middle is bowing because of the way that the side in your peripheral vision is curving. But when you go out there and test it with equipment, it's not curved. Does anybody say, well, we've all seen the ship go over the horizon, hull first. That's one of the top knee-jerk responses. We've all seen, ships disappear hull first. Well, yeah, they do, except they do so rather quickly. And when you look at the math, it's only an 8-inch drop per mile. So, they're not very far out. Even if they're 2 miles out, it's only 32-inch drop. So you're not going to lose that.
Okay, let's figure this out. Okay, now, what Rob's trying to do here, if you sent this stuff to NASA, they would come up with some equations and all these squiggly things on a blackboard with all these idiotic things that only they understand. But when they tell you the Earth is a circumference of 24,000 so many miles, it boils down to this. At the geometry that they give us, every 1 mile should have an 8-inch curvature. Every 2 miles, 32. Every 3 miles, 6 feet. Every 4 miles, 10 feet. Every 5 miles, 16 feet. Every 6 miles, 24 feet. Every 7 miles, 32 feet. Every 8 miles, 42 feet. 9 miles, 54, 10, 60, all the way. Let's go to 90 miles, 5,400 feet of curvature. When I go out scuba diving at La Jolla in Southern California, and I put my goggles even as I'm floating out, there is no curvature whatsoever for as far as the eye can see. Explain that to me.
How much of the hull at 2 miles that you typically, when you're looking out there, you're seeing like the whole hull disappear at 2 miles. So again, we're either on a really small Earth or something's up with that. You can zoom in with a camera and see more than you can see with your eye of the hull. And the big thing for me is it never changes its visual vertical perspective. If it's going over the edge of the ball away from you, then the visual perspective should be such that the top of the mast is leaning away from you, the viewer, so you'd have that, the parallax, your perspective would change. Same thing with cities viewed at a distance. And some of you may have seen it, but that dude took a picture, Joshua Nowicki, took a picture of Chicago from 60 miles away, the other side of Lake Michigan. Now, if I just showed you this picture, you'd say, wow, what a pretty picture of the Chicago skyline.
I got to break in here because he's showing this picture of Chicago, and this guy's looking at it from 60 miles. It is straight across. Now, it's my hometown. Interesting. Now, you got to listen because some weatherman, this guy from Chicago sent it to the weatherman to explain this, and you got to listen to the BS. It is amazing what he said. But just listen in a moment.
Because you tell somebody where the picture was taken, well, your cognitive dissonance kicks in, and you're like, no, that's impossible. You can't. It's 60 miles away. The top of the Sears Tower should be like 900 feet below the horizon.
Wow.
And yet you can see it. And so what does this knucklehead do? He tries to explain it away.
This photo.
And the knucklehead he's talking about is a weatherman on ABC, Channel 57, because he was asked about this. Listen to the garbage he gives you. And if you believe that, people will believe this. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, Grandmere State Park. This is from Joshua Nowicki. And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore.
A mirage? What have we been out in the desert for 17 days and I'm seeing things?
Talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting. And here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west, and Chicago's beyond the horizon. Should not be able to see it. However, with the right...
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Wait till you hear this. How much do they pay these guys? This guy sounds like he'd be a good employee for NASA.
Conditions, we have an inversion. We have cold air near the cold lake water and some relatively warmer air above it. This will bend the image of that skyline back towards the viewer. And so typically we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky, up in space. But instead, we're able to see it on the Lake Michigan shore. Very fascinating, and that's the same reason.
He doesn't even believe what he's saying.
Right.
I mean, really? Have you seen a mirage? A mirage is like usually inverted or wavy or distorted. You don't get perfectly symmetrical, straight up and down, clean lines like this with a mirage. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work. And my buddy Rick Hummer, he's like, dude, I've seen Chicago, because he lives not far from where this picture was taken. Yeah, he said, I've seen it. We've all seen it. He said, no, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a boat and wait for a clear day when we can see the Chicago skyline, and I'm going to start filming from this side of Lake Michigan and film it the entire way over there. And if it's a mirage, then what you should see is the city magically disappear, and then as you go over the ball, you should see the city start to kind of rise up over the ball in view. But I have a silly, sinking suspicion that that's not going to happen. I'm thinking the city's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because you can see it. This is impossible on a ball. Now, I'm taking all of this third hand. I'm going to go out and do tests for myself, because when I do my own tests, I don't know if this is Photoshop. I don't know. I take it that this is legitimate, but, I'm not there. So I'm going to do my own test. And if my own test confirms something like this, dude, I'm a flat earther. Because this is, the math says on a 25,000 mile circumference ball that, the curvature is calculable. You can calculate it. And things you should not be able to see.
Okay, so Rob is saying that if he can test it himself, his eyes can see it. Reminds me of Doubting Thomas, right? But God did help Thomas, didn't he? When Thomas said, I need to see it. But anyway, I know another guy is doing a test this weekend in California. And he's already got the laser cameras ready. He's going to do it over I'm not sure the mileage, but when you shoot these lasers, they will show you a straight line or a curvature, whatever. And this should really be a cool, I've been trying to get this guy on the show. And I plan to do my own test, too, out on the Pacific, with some interesting ways to do it with a few boats. And it should be kind of fun. But remember this theory. Water always goes to the lowest point. So please tell me why it doesn't just flow down to the south, also to the south.
And so I'm doing all this stuff at the beach. I'm not seeing anything. I go to I go out to dinner with a friend of mine who is helping me write scripts for Seed. And he's like, I've been following your stuff on Facebook. He goes, I got to tell you something. He said, I used to be a lifeguard in Ventura Beach, Ventura Fairgrounds or whatever. And he said, on a clear day, we could look across almost 20 miles and see the Anacapa Arch. It's one of these island arch deals. The top of this is 40 feet off the water, and the bottom of the arch right here is 25 feet off the water. He says, but I took this picture. It's like, you can see it. Well, at 20 miles away, the top of the arch should be over 200 feet below the horizon. You should not be able to see that. So he went to a math professor, and because we're talking about this, he said, dude, do you know anybody that can confirm this math? Because like you, I'm not a math person either. This was given to me by a globalist, not a flat earther. Somebody who believes in the globe said this is the circumference geometry, whatever, spherical geometry that proves the curve. Okay, great. So these are the numbers they gave me. So he went to confirm this with a college-level math professor. Says, are these numbers correct? Yes. Okay, so here's the math problem. Something about 18 miles away, the top of it's 40 feet high. How far below the curvature of the Earth should the top of it be? And he did the math. It's like 200-something feet. And my friend says to the math professor, well, the problem is you're saying we shouldn't see it, right? Yeah, that's right. You should definitely not be able to see it. He says, yeah, but we all have. We've all seen it. What are you talking about? The Anacapa Arch. And all of a sudden the math professor's doing the Flintstone, as the gerbil's jumping off the wheel in his head. This is the kind of stuff that's been happening, man. And then I start taking these pictures out of my window. These are out of focus on my way home from San Diego. And this first picture I took, it didn't focus right, and I thought, well, wait a minute. This is the inside curve of the window in my 37,000-foot Spirit airline flight. I thought, So I clicked the little thing on my iPhone to make the background in focus, and the foreground also went out of focus. And I thought, wait a second. If I just said, hey, look at this latest picture of Mars NASA just took, who wouldn't believe that? Almost everybody would say, oh, wow, look at that. Look at those. Looks like some kind of, they found water on Mars. Oh, and, I just kept taking more and more. I got more and more creative. Sheila's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm taking pictures of Mars. Then you grab a picture of the International Space Station, throw it over it, tint it a little red. There you go. If I didn't tell you that was New Mexico at 37,000 feet out the window of my Spirit airline flight, you'd buy that is Mars.
Yeah.
And when I saw a video of Apollo 11 doing the exact same thing to fake pictures of the Earth, these videos are out there. People can watch it. Apollo 11 faking it. If Apollo 11, the one that supposedly landed on the moon, is having to fake using the window of their capsule, fake the pictures that they did of the Earth, how can I believe any of the Apollo programs? Well, the simple answer is I can't. And I'm going to show you something else right here, live right here on the air. Okay, Apollo 17. This is NASA.gov, their website. It has all the different NASA missions. Now, this picture right here, Earth in full view, is from Apollo 17. It's the most famous of all the pictures of the Earth. This one right here, Apollo 17. They always have to show you Antarctica, too, by the way. It's interesting. Most of the pictures of the Earth will try to get you to see Antarctica. Okay. Scientists on the moon. Click on this picture right here. Supposedly the same mission, same guys that took the picture of the most famous picture of our Earth. I'm going to do save image as. And let's see, Apollo Moon. Let's call it Apollo Moon 17. And I'm going to open that in Photoshop. And do you guys still see it?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do a different screen share because it's on my other screen. Okay, just a second here. Hang on. I got two monitors, that's why. Okay, can you see... Oh, that's the same thing. No, hang on, sorry. Technical difficulties here. Here we go. Okay. All right, do you see Photoshop?
Yes.
Okay. And if those of you who think this technical difficulty was planned and think I'm scamming you, go do it for yourself. Because you're going to find the exact same thing. I got nothing to hide here. This is live on the air, okay? I'm going to zoom in on the Earth in Photoshop. You see the Earth?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Levels, and I'm going to bring the levels over here. And I'm going to bring the levels up Uh-oh. What is that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. Why is there a square box around the Earth allegedly taken from the scientists on the moon in Apollo 17? And people wonder why I don't trust NASA. That's why I don't trust NASA. I mean, they're always out there saying, Rob, everybody's trying to show you stuff from space, and you keep rejecting it. This is why I reject it. These guys are liars.
Yeah, and that's the same technique too that people will use to debunk UFO, pictures and stuff. So it's a legitimate, way to debunk things. That's really interesting.
It is, man. I mean, anybody who has Photoshop can just go to the NASA website, download the photo, do exactly what I did, see for yourself. Now, I think they've gotten better at some of them, where the masking that they're using is not as obvious, or even not there at all. But this one clearly was a pasted something on a backdrop. But yet we're told that this is NASA on the moon. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. And then when you look at all the other, so that calls in question the most famous picture, because it's the same people, Apollo 17, that took the most famous picture. Then you got other pictures like this, the blue marble, right, that come out. Okay, well, there's a big problem with the blue marble, and I'm going to zoom in here and show you what the problem is. These are all composite images where they are really not very good at Photoshop, because they're using the Photoshop clone tool to replicate clouds. This cloud is a copy of this cloud. See the formations? They're identical. Identical